Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin has been playing out the bearish divergence and is now running into my exact level of resistance in the short term, as we have new price targets to watch out for in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, while Ethereum is now testing and just about to break the all-time high, and technically did just set a new all-time high, but still running into major resistance and obviously perfectly playing out my short-term bullish price pattern that I talked about in my last video. And of course, Chainlink is still possibly flashing a major warning signal, so I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, I'll give you a quick update on the Fed probabilities for the next interest rate decision at the next FOMC meeting or Fed meeting, because of course this week we just had the Jackson Hole event where Jerome Powell basically talked about what the Federal Reserve may or may not be looking at doing in upcoming Fed meetings and looking at future Fed meeting policy. And so, like I said a couple of days ago now on the channel, around 2 to 3 videos ago, I talked about that we have the Jackson Hole meeting coming up, which could likely cause some volatility in the short term around this time. And of course, this is what we just saw. So once again, I warned about this a couple of days ago. Expect some volatility due to this Jackson Hole meeting. But we can see that right now, the probabilities for the next interest rate decision, because we didn't have an interest rate decision at Jackson Hole, the next interest rate decision happens at the next FOMC meeting or Fed meeting on the 17th of September. And currently there's now a 75% chance being priced into the market of an interest rate cut. So reducing interest rates by 0.25%. And about a 25% chance being priced into the market, a 25% chance of an interest rate basically stay the same, an interest rate pause, so no change in interest rates. And so obviously it's still currently more likely, based on what the market is pricing in, it's more likely we're going to get that interest rate cut at the next Fed meeting. And if we do see that interest rate cut, because not the entire market is pricing that cut in yet, that will be likely bullish for markets, or at least between now and then, as basically more people try to price in the interest rate cuts, that will continue to see more bullish price action for markets in the shorter term, potentially leading up to this Fed meeting on the 17th of September, if of course we get that rate cut on that day. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin price charts today, here on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a bearish divergence technically confirmed, meaning we should not be expecting significant bullish momentum on the large timeframes. Obviously, on much smaller timeframes like the 4-hour chart, we could see short-term volatile moves here and there. But zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, obviously this latest short-term move is not even visible at all on the weekly time frame. So looking at the bigger picture, we're still technically lacking bullish momentum, and this could likely be the case at least over the next 1 or 2 months as one of the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, at least for now, we're kind of lacking momentum to either direction. So technically, looking at the MACD indicator, it's looking slightly more bearish than it is bullish, but it's still not showing a lot of bearish momentum or bullish momentum. So overall, yes, we could see a little short-term moves, but we're not really seeing significant momentum really to either direction on these larger timeframes here, just short-term pumps and short-term dumps. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, technically this bearish divergence is still active and is still affecting the price of Bitcoin. But of course, we're also running into and actually bouncing from this very significant level of support here, sitting at around 112,000. And obviously, I've been talking about that 112K level for days, if not weeks now on the channel. Since all the way back here, I've been targeting roughly 112,000 as a major level of support, telling you we're most likely going to find support here and bounce from this level. And obviously, we've played out exactly that. And so honestly, I'd not be surprised if the price of Bitcoin remains in a bit of a sideways price range here for a little longer, considering the very strong support that we have at roughly 112,000, give or take, but also considering that this bearish divergence and of course the bearish divergence on the weekly time frame are technically still active and still affecting the price of Bitcoin, meaning we should not be expecting significant bullish momentum on the larger time frames. But yes, as I always say, we can see short-term bullish moves from time to time. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, we can clearly see that the price of Bitcoin has perfectly been playing out the bullish divergence that I talked about in my last video before all of this bullish price action started to play out. Obviously, in my last video, I said get get ready, we're most likely going to see a bit more of a bullish relief as a very likely outcome, one of the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And of course, with this coinciding with that Jackson Hole meeting, that Jackson Hole event, that of course accelerated the price a little bit in the short term. But as I'll also always say, we cannot ignore other points of support and resistance, especially these points of resistance here where the price could possibly reject from or struggle at. And a key level I've been talking about for days, if not over a week now on the channel, is this level sitting at around 117,000. So obviously the price of Bitcoin perfectly played out my bullish divergence over the last one day exactly into my exact level on the price chart and perfectly rejected from that level on the price chart. And now in the immediate short term, technically the price structure is pointing in the bullish direction. We have just broken above this high and slightly above this high in the price of Bitcoin, and we're potentially about to form some sort of higher low here if we see some sort of bounce sometime soon. And so in other words, we've finally flipped from this short-term bearish trend that we were in for over a week, roughly around 8 days, give or take. We were in a short-term bearish trend, and now we're potentially about to flip into more of a short-term bullish trend. But once again, zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, those short-term bullish and short-term bearish trends are basically just choppy sideways price action on the larger timeframes. And so as always, it is important to understand the difference between the different timeframes. So once again, in the immediate short term, we're potentially now just starting a bit more of a short-term bullish trend, but do keep in mind, we have strong resistance levels where the price could most likely struggle at or reject from. So if we see a bit more of a bounce here, expect once again a lot of resistance and possibly even another rejection at roughly 117,000. But if we can ultimately break out above 117,000 with candle closes confirming above that level and actually holding above that level, in that situation, it's possible we could find a small amount of resistance in between 118.5k to 119k. But honestly, the next significant resistance starts at roughly 120,000, around 120 to 121k, give or take. We have strong resistance around there. And as for short-term support, obviously we do have this previous support, which was also previous resistance just here, now acting as new support again, or likely about to act as new support again if we test that level. And that's sitting at around just under 115,000, so around 114.8k, give or take, is now acting as support, or will likely act as support if we test that level. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that right now we really have two key levels to watch out for. First of all, we have a little bit of liquidity below the price at around 111.4k to 111.5k, and we also have a decent area of liquidity starting to build just under 120,000, around 119.5k. But considering this short-term bullish move here, considering that this bullish divergence is technically still active, we're just running into this key point of resistance, and considering the short-term change in the price structure, it is slightly more likely that we would hit that 119.5k level now compared to that 111.4k level. And obviously you can notice here that just before we played out that bullish move into my exact level of resistance here, we did actually see a slight little sweep of the lows to take out a bit of liquidity just under 112,000, which is also what I talked about in my last video. So basically we played out that little sweep of the lows and then pushed right into my exact resistance, something I talked about yesterday. And if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I've been taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses, and you can actually get up to a 25,000 USDT prize pool here simply just by trading crypto using that link. So for example, if you have a large trading volume or a decent P&L, or if you're a new user, etc., there's multiple ways here where you can get a decent percentage, a high percentage of this huge $25,000 prize pool, which is only available to the accounts that are actually using that link below this video to make your BitNX account. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. First link below this video to take advantage of some major free bonuses here just by trading crypto. And in case you're wondering, BitNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BitNX as an exchange, there's also Pinex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Pinex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some major bonuses. For example, if you simply just make an account, takes about 60 seconds to do this, make an account using the link below this video and complete KYC, you get a $50 bonus, free free money from the exchange onto your Pinex account simply just by making an account and completing KYC. It takes about 1 minute to do this. So free money using that link once again, just by doing that. And also if you make deposits here, you get major deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $100 bonus onto your Pinex account. If you deposit up to $10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus onto your Pinex account. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check out these exchanges, the links below this video, to take advantage of those major bonuses here. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance, and right now on the 3-day time frame, the Bitcoin dominance is obviously continuing the pullback. As I've been saying this entire time, the larger price structure, the larger trend or momentum right now is still currently pointing in the bearish direction, which means altcoins overall, especially the major altcoins, are doing a lot better than what Bitcoin is doing on average. Obviously not every single altcoin individually, but most altcoins are doing pretty well, while the Bitcoin dominance is bearish like this, at least relative to Bitcoin. And so obviously we can see little short-term bounces here and there, and while those short-term bounces are playing out, that's bad news for altcoins. But overall, with this larger pullback, once again, that's good news for altcoins, talking about the next few days or weeks as a likely outcome. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, just over the last 1 day, Ethereum technically very slightly just hit a new all-time record high, slightly breaking out above the previous all-time high. But obviously, as I've been saying many times here on the channel, we have a strong area of resistance to watch out for, just under 5,000, around 4.8k to 4.9k, and that's exactly where the price rejected from just in the immediate short term. Now obviously we haven't really seen a full rejection like what we saw last time, but we are struggling at least a little bit in the short term around this area, which is to be expected. It is a very strong area of resistance, but obviously this is really the final area of resistance before we're looking at potentially prices well beyond $5,000. Once again, we still have that resistance we first need to break out above at around 4.8k to 4.9k. And as for support, I would expect a lot of support in this area in between 3.9k to 4.1k. And obviously I've been saying that since before we just saw a very perfect bounce from that exact area, as I've been saying. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, technically we've now invalidated the previous bearish divergence, which is also something that I talked about in my last video. In my last video, I said it would be very normal if we see a continued bullish move to invalidate this bearish divergence, now that it's already played out for around a week. But the bad news is that even though the price is of course invalidating the previous bearish divergence and creating a new higher high, at least as of right now, the RSI on the daily Ethereum price chart is currently forming much lower highs. Even if we push a little bit higher, the RSI will likely still be sitting in lower highs, which means at some point later on, maybe it's in a few days from now, maybe in another week from now, we could end up confirming another bearish divergence, which is something to watch out for. But overall, we're still waiting for that confirmation to potentially confirm a new bearish divergence. So we no longer have a bearish divergence active right now, just a new one that's possibly forming in case it possibly confirms. And of course, the last few bearish divergences that confirmed on the daily Ethereum price chart, we did end up seeing a pullback for give or take 1 to 2 weeks as a likely outcome. This one right here played out for just under a week. This one played out for about a week. This one played out for just under 2 weeks. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Ethereum price chart, looking at the immediate short term, we can see that right now the price of ETH has successfully played out this short-term bullish price pattern, the inverse head and shoulders pattern that I talked about in my last video before it played out, when the price was back down here at give or take basically just under 4.3k is where the price was. And I said if we break out above around 43.50, then that will set up a bullish price target here at around 46.40 to 46.50, give or take. So from the breakout to the price target, that was suggesting around a 6 to 7% move. Obviously the price ran a bit higher than that, but overall, of course, if you longed that breakout right here or longed some sort of move here, you would have made some decent profits over the last 1 day. And of course, I shared that trading strategy, shared that possible trading opportunity before it happened in my last video. But obviously right now, this trade is completely over. So this price pattern has already played out. We've already blown past the price target, which means we can no longer really look at this price pattern anymore. It's already complete. So overall, just watch out for a possible bearish divergence forming, but once again, not confirmed. Overall, we're still looking very bullish when it comes to the larger trend and momentum, the larger price structure or the long-term trend, still looking very bullish, as I've been saying the entire time. Just obviously do expect the occasional little pullback here and there along the way towards the upside, especially from major points of resistance. And I got a few comments in my last video here on the channel just after this major pump. A lot of people were saying that I was getting wrecked on my short positions, but obviously those were not people that watched my last few videos here on the channel, because over the last few days, in fact, a few days ago, right around here, I was saying I'm taking huge profits from my shorts positions. And you can see that right here, my Ethereum short position already closed days ago. As you can see right here, closed days ago in almost 7,000 USD in profit. So far from wrecked, around $6,000 to $7,000 in profits in just a few short days. And obviously I did have a small Bitcoin short position here, a few $100 profit. And then before that, roughly 1 or 2 weeks ago, around 31,000 USD in profits from a Bitcoin long position. So obviously my trades right here are not getting wrecked despite the current price action. It's actually quite the opposite. We're basically all printing huge profits here if you've been following the trades. And once again, I've been taking these trades right here, making a lot of profits over on BTNX. So definitely check out BTNX, first link below this video, to take advantage of some major bonuses on this exchange that I've been trading on. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana has technically just confirmed one 2-day candle close very slightly above $200. And so this is the first confirmation signal that we've seen this entire time to possibly start confirming a breakout here above this very important area of resistance in between around 190 to 200. So obviously now the price is trading above that level. We need to hold above this area and actually hold 190 to 200 as new support. If we confirm candle closes back below 190, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, then essentially we've failed the breakout. This is just a fake out if that were to happen. So right now we need to hold above this area in order to continue a breakout towards the next price target, which in case you're wondering is sitting at around $230. And we also have a possible rising wedge pattern forming right now on the Solana price chart. As you can see, we have higher lows and higher highs, but we're in more of a converging range, as we can see. And so if the price ultimately fails this breakout here, if we start struggling a little bit and then ultimately stall and see a slight little pullback again, we have to be aware of this possible rising wedge that is forming but not confirmed, because if we were to say break below roughly $180 below this line right here, then in that situation that would set up the rising wedge and set up a bearish price target at the bottom of the wedge, which in this case right here, based on this line from these lows, the bottom of the wedge is sitting at around $133, give or take, based on these candle closes. And so once again, I'm just pointing out that in case it confirms, just in case we start to reject very soon, but overall that's not yet confirmed. So overall the price structure is still bullish. We just now need to hold above this area to maintain that bullish trend. And keep in mind on the bigger picture here, of course we can see short-term bullish, short-term bearish moves. If you're zooming into the 1 minute time frame, it looks like we have massive momentum, but looking at the bigger picture, we're still kind of lacking momentum. Obviously, compared to previous moves in the price of Solana, we're not really seeing that same huge momentum towards the upside or to the downside. Obviously right now we are seeing a decent short-term bullish move, but we're still not really seeing massive momentum. It's not like we're jumping $50 in a single day, and we have done something similar, obviously huge movements in the price in the past. So right now we're seeing obviously bullish price action. We are in a bullish trend. We're just not having massive momentum is all I'm saying. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, this massive bearish divergence is still currently confirmed and is still affecting the price of XRP on the weekly time frame. And once again, the last time we confirmed a weekly bearish divergence on this XRP price chart was this one right here at the end of 2020 entering into early 2021, and what came next was a major pullback that lasted over multiple months. So just keep that in mind. We now have this signal already confirmed and already playing out, which means potentially over the next month, over the next couple of months, we could see at best just a larger slowdown, so maybe a sideways consolidation, but quite likely a bit more of a pullback at some point in the next 1 or 2 months is a very likely scenario that we need to consider. Once again, not a short-term signal. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, obviously we are following the rest of the crypto market with another short-term bounce, but still overall the price structure has not really flipped back into the bullish direction despite one higher low. Obviously we are forming one higher low, which is something to watch out for, but overall we're still looking pretty similar to what we saw near the beginning of the year. We're still failing to actually form a new higher high. Now if the price actually breaks out ideally above $3.40, then that would be a major change in the price structure. That would be extremely bullish for XRP. So if we break out above $3.40 at that point onwards, I would honestly expect new all-time highs as a very likely outcome, but we've not yet seen that. We've not yet broken out above this key point of resistance here. We've only rejected from that level, causing more of a pullback. And so when it comes to short-term support and resistance to watch out for, first of all, we have a lot of support at roughly $2.90 and slightly either side of $2.90. So especially more recently around $2.85, we have found a decent amount of support around there. And in terms of resistance, we have decent resistance at around $3.10 to almost $3.15. So especially around $3.10, we have decent short-term resistance based on previous support and resistance. And once again, significant resistance at around $3.35 to $3.40. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, technically the larger trend, the larger momentum or price structure is still currently pointing in the bullish direction. As I've been saying for a long time, clearly the trend is bullish for Chainlink, but of course we have points of support and resistance to watch out for. Like more recently at roughly $27, we have seen a lot of struggle approaching $27. So far, we're really failing to break out above that level, at least as of right now. But if the price of Chainlink ultimately confirms a breakout, ideally at least with a daily candle close and holding above $27, in that situation, of course, the next major price target I've been talking about is at close to $30. At roughly $30 per Chainlink, it will be the next major price target if we first confirm a breakout above $27. So once again, $27 is the immediate level of resistance to watch out for. And as for support, if we continue another little pullback here, expect a lot of support at roughly $24, give or take, around $24 to $25. And below that, if we actually confirm multiple candle closes and fail to get back above $24, in that situation, the next major area of support starts at roughly $21. And if we're taking a look at this daily Chainlink price chart, of course, we still have a bearish divergence forming and possibly about to reconfirm here. And this is what I talked about also in my last video here on the channel. I said multiple times over the last 1 week or so, we've formed a bearish divergence, confirmed the bearish divergence, played out a slight pullback for about a day, and then another major pump, formed a new bearish divergence, reconfirmed it, and done the same thing again and again and again a couple of times, at least a few times over the last 1 week. And so I said in my last video, I'll not be surprised if it happens again. And yes, it has just happened again. We've seen another pump, obviously with the previous candle close here, that was a green daily candle. And right now we're seeing another pullback from the latest higher high in the price, potentially about to reconfirm the bearish divergence with this next little pullback here. But then once again, if history were to repeat again for another time, it's possible we could see another pump following this little pullback here to maybe test the highs, maybe even form a slight little higher high, reconfirm the bearish divergence, so on and so forth. But obviously at some point, it's likely this bearish divergence will finally start playing out, considering the significant lower highs that are still simply forming in the RSI on the daily time frame. And so once again, overall, the trend and the price structure still very much pointing in the bullish direction. Just be aware of this possible bearish divergence forming right now, possibly about to reconfirm, which may end up causing just a slight pullback in the short term. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing to make a lot of profits like what I've been doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.